What's up, guys? It's John Haltemaker here with Alexander Svokos, and we're having a very special episode of Why Politics today. We are live from Hillary Clinton's Brooklyn HQ.
Can you tell?
Yeah, what would give
It doesn't really look like there's too much Hillary stuff here.
Can somebody tell us a bit about this mural behind us?
Yeah, we had a ladies drawing night where we had a ton of artists, volunteers that came in, and they did a lot of Hillary and campaign specific art. And this is a piece that they all hand drew on this wall, and we've actually turned it into a poster that's available on our website. But it's just basically a bunch of really awesome lady artists that came into headquarters one day and drew a lot of Hillary inspired art. And this is one of the many pieces that they did.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So could you introduce yourselves? You all work for Hillary for America. So could we start with Charles?
Sure, yeah, I'm Charles. I'm on the research team, and I've been up here since May of last year,
Oh, wow.
so for a long time, and yeah, I'm from Georgia originally.
My name is Nisha. I am on our States and Political team, and I am the Deputy Women's Vote Director. And I've been with the campaign ever since the first day. So,
how long is that?
April of 2015.
Wow.
So I'm here for the
How you
long
feeling?
haul. I can go for another 2 months.
2 months? Yeah.
So,
what,
yeah.
58 days left?
58 days,
Yeah.
right. I have about 58 days left
Yeah,
in me.
you got this, you got this.
Exactly.
I'm John. I'm on our social media team here at headquarters, and I've been here since last June, actually.
Wow.
So
So you guys are all OGs on the campaign.
Yeah.
I've been here for a long time.
A long time.
Everyone's doing okay? Everyone's you're not completely exhausted?
We keep drinking a lot of caffeine.
Yeah.
We get through the days, lots of water, stay
Yeah.
hydrated.
Hydration is key.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're here today to talk about the Love Trump's Hate campaign.
Mhm.
And you're responsible for the Love Trump's Hate campaign, are you not? Or-
yes, yeah.
Okay, could
yeah.
you tell us a little bit about what inspired it and how it
Yeah,
started?
no, well, it's really interesting because it was a very sort of organic thing. People probably remember because it still is something that he's sort of proposing. Donald Trump, in about early December, rolled out a proposal to ban all Muslims from entering the United States from all over the world. And obviously, I think at the time everyone was kind of like, what? This is
What an interesting
unprecedented.
proposal.
Yeah, it was just is this, but it was also the latest thing that because, he had started his campaign by insulting Mexican immigrants, so it was sort of a continuation, but now becoming an actual policy idea. And so, I think it happened at night, and then the next day our campaign was, continuing to be how do we respond to this on social media, on pretty much everywhere. And my team was coming up with, graphics and longer form posts, and because we're on so many different platforms, and I just kind of was why don't we just do something very simple and something like Love Trump's Hate, because I love a pun usually, and usually they're less, serious and inspiring. So it was kind of nice to have.
It's convenient with
that,
his name.
Yeah, no, it was oh, here we go, and it was interesting because we shared it on social media in the morning, but it's not like we were expecting it to be this thing that blew up. And I, within the hour we were oh, this is really, catching on. And
So when you first put this out, was it just a tweet that you sent out with just text, or how did
it was
go?
a graphic so I work really closely with our design team, and we knew we wanted it to be this, graphic. And it's weird because at the time we had no idea that it would be this look that is now, on placards and in real life on signs. But so it was a graphic that looked like that, the white with the red and two blues. And so we shared that out, and I think the caption was tell Donald Trump hate is not an American value. And I think that just instantly resonated with people.
Yeah.
And so it was just shared, and by actually the afternoon we were oh, we should maybe turn this into a bumper sticker, so people can in the physical world kind of share this message, and that did really well. And so really ever since it's, yeah.
Speaking of the physical world, you're wearing a Love Trump's Hate
Yes.
t-shirt. So is that something you made, or is that an official campaign t-shirt?
This is an official campaign t-shirt.
Cool.
So it's available on our website at our campaign store online. So everyone can rock the Love Trump's Hate t-shirt.
And I think this one was actually made by, we have this line called
Yeah.
Made for History, where real designers are making things for
Yeah,
the
wasn't that
campaign.
when Kendall Jenner first came
Yes,
out?
yes,
The
yes.
big shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's,
Yes, this is a designer-inspired t-shirt.
So you guys have some interesting personal stories in relation to this campaign. I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about your story.
Sure, yeah. Awesome. So Love Trump's Hate kind of resonates with me. I'm an immigrant. I moved here to the U.S. when I was 11, and me, my sister, my brother with my mom. So it was about 4 of us, and I kind of watched my mom take us through the INS process of becoming citizens, and Donald Trump's divisive rhetoric and wanting to build a wall and wanting to have all these really intense screenings to kind of bar people, basically, and to prevent folks from coming into the country and trying to deport millions of Americans. It really kind of resonates with me because that's my story. I used my student loan refund checks to pay for my citizenship. So, and Hillary Clinton, she's a fighter for immigrants like myself. She's a fighter for all Americans. It doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter your story, and Love Trump's Hate is like a rallying cry, and it's a message that really unites Hillary supporters and those who kind of want to combat all of the negative and divisive rhetoric that Trump kind of spews on a consistent basis. It's really a way that we can kind of say that, like they said, that's not an American value that we share. And you know, it kind of pushes that love and kindness message that Hillary has always kind of stood for. So that's what it means to me.
And you have an interesting story as well in terms of your parents' business.
Yes. So I think I said earlier, I'm from rural Georgia, and my family lived on a hay farm and still live on a hay farm, and we grew up next to our grandparents, which was great. And once my brothers and I moved out of the house to go to college, my mom turned our house into a wedding venue. So it's so pretty. Like we have a lot of hay in the background. Yeah, it's absolutely lovely. And you know, when this campaign started, I couldn't get married there, which was really rough. You know, it's rough when you have something with your family home becomes such a special place, and you can't partake in that because your state does not recognize equality. And so when the Supreme Court legalized marriage equality across the country, that was huge. And I was sitting in this office and I saw it go across all the blogs, and everyone was talking about it. And you know, I like started crying, and I called my mom and I said, you know, I can get married in Georgia. Like, this is something that is real. And there are so many people, you know, across the country who I know felt the same way. You know, and going to Stonewall that night and getting to, you know, just celebrate with all of these people who had participated in this effort and in this campaign for marriage equality was huge. And it's really thrilling being on a campaign where we have a candidate in Hillary Clinton who understands that marriage equality was a huge first step, and that was a historic move by the Supreme Court. But, you know, we're not going to have full equality until we have workplace equality, until we have adoptive equality, until conversion therapy is a thing of the past. You know, and our campaign.
This is all real stuff that's
Yeah,
happening.
it's so real. Like people, you know,
These are people's lives.
yeah, and this is crazy. In 45 states across this country, it is legal for a doctor to look at a child and say that something is wrong with you because of your sexual orientation. And our candidate is the first candidate ever to come out and say, this is wrong. And you know, the first time I met Hillary, you know, I said, thank you so much for doing this. She literally went, oh, of course, like, that's horrible. We've got to get rid of that. You know, she's very in tune with what LGBT people are fighting for, and she's listening to us and pushing our agenda forward. And so, when it comes to like the hatred and the vitriol that comes with homophobia and oppression, Hillary Clinton has fought against that her whole life.
So Love Trump's Hate is kind of something that encompasses a wide array of issues, from immigration to LGBTQ rights.
Yeah. It's
John,
a catch-all.
for you, what does it mean personally?
You know, for me, it's similar. I'm also a young gay man from, which I think is like, but I think for me, it actually helps encapsulate, like, I think it's an easy way for people to understand, like, how many issues in communities are, like the stakes are so high for so many people. And, you know, because, like, I think you start to almost lose that. Like, this election has been crazy. You know, there's no other way to really say that. And it's like, there's something new to, like, every day. And for me, it's been cool. Like, so my job is to kind of translate the essence of Hillary Clinton to the millions of people that aren't going to get to meet her. And love and kindness are things that she's actually been talking about for 40 years. And you know, there were times where people, you know, would make fun of her for it. And she even says today, like, I know it's unusual for a politician to say we need more love and kindness, but like she firmly believes that. And I think, you know, it's cool to kind of have a social media graphic be the starting point to something that is now living out
Yeah.
elsewhere. Like for example, you know, for the New York Pride Parade, we ended up using kind of Love Trumps Hate as our theme, and
Cool.
we're using more rainbow stuff, and it was really, that was the first time I, you know, had seen it kind of living in the real world as like people chanting it, and people
Yeah.
on the sides of the streets already having head signs that said Love
Yeah.
Trumps Hate, you know, who weren't part of our campaign group. And I think that's really sort of, and another cool thing, honestly, that I think is important is like Bernie Sanders' campaign also started using
Yeah.
it, and he started saying it. So like during that very hard-fought primary, I had a lot of hope for like, okay, this is something that progressives generally
Yeah.
unite around. When it felt like for a minute
Yeah.
that we might not, you know, like it was like, oh god. But so it's been cool, and I think it's just now been a natural thing that we
Yeah.
saw at our convention, and
Mhm.
since then. So
And how is it, so like you were saying, this phrase first started out just as this graphic that you put together and put out to the public, put on social media. And how was it for you did you hear Hillary say it at some point, and how was it?
yes, yeah. It's actually the crazy thing. So my mom is like obsessively following the campaign. I think she would be kind of anyways, because
Right.
politics was always an interest. But my mom one day texted me, and Hillary during the primaries was actually in Illinois, and she was in, I think, Pilsen, in Chicago, and she said it to a group of Latino, you know, activists, and she said it out loud, and my mom was like, oh my god, Hillary just said Love Trumps Hate, like, right now, and I was like, wait, what? Like, what? Like, how do you know that ahead of me? And then since then, you know, she has been saying it in speeches, and you know, in roundtables, because she's doing all these very different events with different groups, and then seeing it, honestly, like, at one point that I just was like, oh my god, she said it during her speech at, in Philadelphia when she was, you know, making history, and it was just like, whoa, this, you know, really is something that has resonated with her, with millions of people, and yeah.
Do you think that it would have, that when it first came up, did you think that it would have this big of a lifetime? I mean, Trump made his announcement about keeping all Muslim immigrants out almost getting close to a year at this point. Did you think that this phrase would have that long of a life?
I did not, and honestly, the crazy thing about in social media is like we never, I mean, we always try to be as strategic and interesting and whatever as we can, but like sometimes we do things that are we think are gonna be really cool, and people like it, but it doesn't blow up, and so this was like one of those things where it's like, let's see, and then so I never expected it, and I think when I have realized that it was more of a thing was just seeing people like Bernie Sanders say it, people, you know, protesters outside of Trump rallies who maybe weren't our supporters, you know, like that's when I was like, whoa, like these people don't even necessarily love Hillary Clinton, you know, as much as I do, but yeah.
So the reaction to it's almost moved beyond the campaign. It encompasses the campaign, but it's kind of, because it's so inclusive, it's almost bigger. Yeah.
Well, it's about our country. You know, you think about like what we stand for as progressives and as people who, you know, have like real lived experiences. You know, the idea of love being bigger than, you know, political division, being bigger than, you know, what separates us. You know, that's like the message of this campaign is we are fighting for love, we are fighting to push something positive forward. It's been really neat in this like election cycle to have a message that's not, you know, divisive, that's not, you know, that doesn't eliminate people, it's not exclusive. You know, saying that love trumps hate is like, you know, that is something that we are fighting for. And that, you know, as we've said, like applies to a lot of, you know, Americans.
And I think too, like so starting last June, I started about a week before Trump even launched his campaign. So when it was getting into this, I did not think like the soul of our country would really be, you know, it was like,
I don't think anyone did.
you know, like I wasn't expecting this to become a thing between like love and hate, you know, it was like, was this
I don't
gonna
think
be,
anyone did.
yeah.
I mean, if you ask the pundits at the beginning, everyone's predictions were wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely been an unprecedented campaign
Yes.
election cycle. Yeah.
And in that darkness, it's cool to have something to like positive to push out there and
Yeah.
send out into the universe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In some ways, it almost feels like it's gotten bigger than the "I'm with her" thing because it encompasses so many different people, and as you said, Bernie Sanders supporters, and maybe even people that weren't voting Democrat were embracing it. So since we're here with somebody from the social media team, and obviously this is the social media age, and Barack Obama used social media so effectively in 2008 and 2012, and he did very well with millennials, and some people would credit that to his effective use of social media. How important are you seeing the use of social media in this campaign? Obviously, just the conversation that we just had is kind of emblematic of it being important, but how important are you feeling that social media is during this election cycle?
I mean, I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's important when you sort of look at all the different departments within our campaign, both here and in all of the states where we have, hundreds of other people working. Because, for our candidate, it's a place to, get her message out, make news. Donald Trump has obviously brought even more attention to the use of things like
He
Twitter.
hates Twitter.
Does he even have one? I don't know. And so I think, it's become, a lot of times, there wasn't a place to like make news instantly, but now it's happening there. But for us too, like we are on so we have like Facebook, Twitter, but like I do our Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. We have a big team here, and so it's really been to varying degrees. On LinkedIn we can talk about her detailed policies that she loves. She's like this very wonky person. But then, we have social media being used by our organizers and volunteers and people in the States, and, how they're using things like Snapchat, for like organizing purposes. And that's been kind of, for me, I'm learning something every day about how people in their own ways are kind of using social media.
I know we noticed, especially out at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland this past July, there were a bunch of Snapchat geo-filters that came from the Hillary campaign, I believe. And the campaign was basically trolling the RNC at their own convention. And so it was all these filters that had like quotes from Republican politicians saying something bad about Trump, or like something just being like, this is ridiculous, what's happening here. So were you involved with that, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So it's interesting because like the use of paid Snapchat filters kind of started with, we were like, oh, this could be a funny way to like very targetedly, troll him. But I think with that, we were doing something that we kind of try to do everywhere, and that's like present people with facts and past things he has said and done. And I think some people there were like, oh my, like horrified. And going into it too, we knew that it was kind of like a weird vibe. Their party wasn't fully united, and I mean, they're clearly still not united. And there was one, I think, even that was a quote about his past praise of Hillary Clinton, which is something that's like easy to forget now that he's, and so it's, and I think that's just been a way for us to kind of draw attention to his words and actions, which I think we're kind of trying to remind people about.
It's got to be a kind of hard balance to find though, because social media can basically be very emotive. It's all about like feelings rather than facts, and facts are, well, quite frankly, to a lot of Americans, pretty boring. So how do you find the balance in like making it creative and fun and like actually informing people?
What's interesting, something that I have noticed is watching, especially on Twitter and stuff during past debates and stuff, like the concept of receipts, which I think started on Black Twitter and has continued out, is like I think people actually respond really well to that, and I think it's just a matter of presenting it at the right time in an interesting way, because it's like people, like I think a lot of people don't know just the extent of things he has said and done, but also, in her past, people may not know that she, 30 years ago was fighting for kids in Arkansas and stuff like that.
It was interesting. I saw after Trump spoke in Mexico, or maybe it was even during it, the campaign website posted every tweet he'd sent about Mexico, both prior to the maybe ever, I think it was, or it was just during the campaign. But I was like, oh, that's actually pretty. Wow, that is quite a receipt right there. And after Trump's RNC speech, when Obama went through all of the points and ripped them apart, people were tweeting quite a few things, and that went pretty viral. So
we do have, you have the hashtag I'm with her hashtag that's been used by the campaign, and you have love Trump's hate and these phrases, and this comes up a lot on social media. We have hashtag politics where you put your hashtag and then everyone knows that's what you care about. You put in Black Lives Matter and like there, you've done your good for the day. But that doesn't always necessarily translate into actual action. And so for you guys working on the campaign, how do you translate something like using the hashtag I'm with her to getting somebody to actually go to the poll and vote?
Right. We have a really awesome digital team as a whole. From creating the awesome graphics that you all see, and really lifting up these hashtags that resonate with everyone and gets retweeted. But we also, as part of our overall digital team, we have a really great digital organizing team, and those are the folks who kind of take all of that excitement and engagement online and kind of push them to the organizing side and move them to action. So whether that is directing them to join our SMS list, where we will text them ways that they can get involved right away, or text them, here's a link, iwillvote.com, where you can go and check your registration, or direct them to our online call tool where you can make phone calls from home. You don't even have to go to a field office anymore. You can have a little phone bank at home. So our digital team, not only do they engage with supporters on these different platforms, everything from Facebook to Snapchat and Pinterest, which I'm obsessed with, but they also kind of use that energy once we've engaged supporters and volunteers to really turn that into action. And we see our SMS list grow, and we see folks using our call to online or going and checking their voter registration. So we're really specific in that when we engage folks online, we want to make sure they stay involved.
We also have an app, Hillary 2016, the app, which is great. It's really fun. In it, you have your own field office, and you can collect points for, taking quizzes about our candidate, taking quizzes about Donald Trump, and then also going through actions like Nisha said, like letting your friends know how to register to vote, or checking your voter registration, participating in a phone bank. And so we've kind of been innovative as a campaign. Our tech team's been very innovative in taking real life actions and putting them into a digital universe.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that that's going to help us to get out the vote, to get people registered, and to turn people out on November 8th.
So you were talking about your mom following closely, and you were talking as we started about how your mom recently got on Facebook,
Yes.
and we all know that's very troubling territory.
It's traumatic.
When your mom starts liking things or commenting embarrassing things on it.
Yes.
So, Hillary is trying to, communicate with what is a very important demographic in this election, millennials. We're, next to baby boomers, we're the largest share of the electorate. But we're also a group that doesn't like to be pandered to. We want people to feel like you're being genuine with us.
Right.
I think the Humans of New York post is a great example of that. It was very genuine, very human, very real. With your social media stuff, how do you find the line as millennials, as somebody working for Hillary? How do you toe that line where you're like not just trying to be the cool mom?
Like, don't just throw YOLO into everything.
Yeah, don't be the mom in Mean Girls. It's like, hey,
Not a regular mom.
Yeah.
I'm a cool mom.
How do you find that balance?
I think it's, on social media, it's really sort of, I think our digital director recently described it as like, we're kind of trying to prove that you can be a wonk, who loves policy, and like a badass who can be Secretary of State, or a First Lady that goes to China and talks about women's rights at a time that, like that was like something, like I think when Hillary Clinton's being cool, it's sort of doing things like that and like dedicating her entire 40-year career to public service. And I think it's also just, calling out injustices when she sees them, and then, promoting ideas and policies and actions that kind of go against that. Because we definitely like don't want people to feel like they're pandered to, and I think it's just really trying to communicate the authentic Hillary Clinton as much as we can, and
So being cool is like being.
I think it's really more like how you define being
more
cool.
so than
Like, I
getting
think-
the right meme out.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Yeah.
And not just being flippant. When she's tweeting something, when she's saying something, she's got the policy to back it up.
Yeah.
That's like we've
Yeah.
got, I think, 100,000 words of policy on our website.
Right.
So when she's talking, she's like tweeting out, different things, but either the -H or our social media team's tweeting something. These are things that are backed up. It's not just, she's not, saying, oh, I love gay Americans at the RNC like Donald Trump did when the RNC's platform, is, refused to condemn the Pulse shooting. She's not, her actions are matching her words, and that's to me how she avoids it.
And
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is, as I said, like when she's calling Donald Trump out on Twitter, like that is not to be cool. It's to call out either something that
Injustice.
was a lie or an
Yeah.
injustice
Right,
or
yeah.
hate or it's like
Well, so
I think
when
people
it's
respond
like
to
an all-out
Exactly.
Twitter war.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she's coolest
Yeah.
when she's just being herself.
Yeah.
And being, that policy wonk and being able to kind of call Donald Trump out, but back it up with facts. And
Facts are
being
cool, you
able-
guys.
An
Facts.
experience.
Facts are cool.
Facts.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
Come on, America.
So speaking of facts, I think unfortunately we are just about out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you guys
This is
so
great,
much.
guys.
Thanks
Yeah,
for having
thanks
us.
for coming.
Taking
Yeah.
time. And we'll be back next week.
Same
Bye
time,
now.
same. Actually, not same
Not
place.
same place.
Same time, but not same place.
Bye guys.
Bye, guys.